Thank you.
As everyone assembles in. General.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Victor Gorlo, and I'm the proud mayor of the city of Pasadena. It's an honor and a privilege to have all of you here with us at my alma mater, Pasadena City College, and in our beautiful city. I'd like to welcome everyone, each and every one of you, for being here today, particularly Governor Newsom and first partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom, for being here today. You were here during the fire. You were both here present and in our community, and I'd like to thank you for all of your efforts. I tell people there are moments in time, there are moments in life. You know, moments in life are birthdays, the passing of people, things that change in our everyday life. But then there are moments in time, and what we have experienced in our region and in the state of California is a moment in time. And everyone in this room played a role in helping us get through that moment in time. But we're not finished. And the governor is here to mark the day, the 6 months when our world changed here in our community, and tell us what's coming before us. And so, Governor, on behalf of residents of Pasadena and all of Southern California I'd like to thank you and the first partner for your efforts on behalf of each family and all of us collectively. Quiero darle las gracias a todos los que están aquí, a la primera pareja, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, y al gobernador Newsom, por estar aquí con todos nosotros, nuestro senador y todos los representantes públicos que están aquí. Queremos darle las gracias por todo lo que hicieron para ayudar a nuestras familias, para ayudar a nuestra comunidad en un tiempo que es un tiempo no en nuestra vida, pero es un tiempo en el tiempo de toda la historia. Y gracias a todos ustedes, individuos y colectivamente, hemos sobrevivido y vamos a seguir sobreviviendo. Aquí está el gobernador con nosotros para explicar qué es el siguiente paso. Y quiero darle las gracias al gobernador de parte de todos los individuos, familias en nuestra comunidad y todos nosotros como una comunidad. Gracias, gobernador. Con eso les introduzco al Bishop Dorsey.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bishop Dorsey. I'm senior pastor of Lifeline Fellowship Christian Center. We lost our church and we lost our van to the Eden Canyon fire. And I do also want to thank our outstanding governor and all elected officials for being here. As Mayor mentioned, this is the 6-month midterm. So I want to pray a blessing over our meeting and our press conference here today. Just bow your heads, if you would, please. Lord, we just thank you for allowing us to just be here first safely. You've ordained this day. You brought us here, Lord, and we just speak a blessing over this meeting, this press conference. We speak a blessing as we go forth, Lord. You've declared through your word that the steps of a good man are ordered by you, and the heart of leadership is in your hand. So we just thank you for each of us being able to just make it here right now. Lord, bless us as we go forth. Your proverb tells us to acknowledge you in all our ways, and you will direct our path. So we pray for love, empathy, compassion, and leadership. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. With that, I do want to also thank our wonderful governor. Again, we met him in January this year, directly after the fire. He's come out consistently to meet with us, places, people of faith, and we're appreciative. We just got our debris removed, and now we are pressing forward to continue to rebuild in the great city of Altadena. So at this time, let's give the Lord a hand praise for Governor Newsom.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Bishop, thank you. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much to all of you assembled here today, a lot of dignitaries, a lot of leaders, particularly men and women in uniform that are here that have helped us advance the cause that we're highlighting here today, members of the Assembly and the Senate, members of my own team, but in particular, I just want to thank Senator Padilla for being here, Congressman Sherman, and of course, Congresswoman Chu. I want to thank Supervisor Barger. We'll speak all of them in a brief moment. But I wanted just to briefly sort of mark this moment, this 6-month anniversary, with a very short presentation to sort of highlight foundationally where we've been. I think it goes without saying that disasters test us. And I think at this moment it's appropriate to remind ourselves that there are people that are not here. 30 lives that were lost because of this tragedy. And I should just highlight, we're Pasadena Community College. I'm grateful that we're here. Altadena in particular, a special community. Altadena, the average life lost was 77 years old. You had great-grandparents, not just grandparents. You had a father and a son that died. You had brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles that perished in this fire. 30 lives lost. It, I hope, puts in perspective the moment we're in. And I hope it also puts in perspective how blessed, Bishop, we are to be here, to be members, many of you, of this remarkable community, and to have the opportunity to be part of this recovery. Recovery, after all, is what defines us. It's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to what happens to us. And it's that response that I wanted to just briefly highlight here today. As was noted, the Bishop, one of the beneficiaries of some debris removal, this has been the fastest fire recovery in terms of debris removal in modern history. I'll remind you that this process began to unfold the second phase of debris removal after the hazardous debris removal was removed within 30 days after the initiation of the fire. That second phase began on February 11th. I'd, by the way, be remiss if I didn't highlight, in particular, Bob Fenton, who's here from FEMA, who understandably deserves that recognition. Thank you, Bob. No one better. He committed to a 30-day process in partnership with the EPA on the first phase, and concurrently was working to advance in partnership with the U.S. Army Corps Phase 2, beginning just in February 11th. This process that unfolded over the course of the last 6 months is put, I think, in perspective as it relates to this slide. Over 2,000 homes per month that debris was removed. To put that in perspective, you can look, Lahaina, of course, is unique in every way because of the difficulties of taking debris off an island. But you can compare just fire very familiar to many Angelenos, the Woolsey fire, 132 homes per month. Compare that to 2,000 homes per month, 15x faster in terms of that overall debris removal. 12,048 homes, not structures and not damaged, but completely destroyed, 12,000 homes. We had an opt-in process that people, I think, very familiar with, this ROE process, a right to entry. There were just less than 2,000 people that opted out, which I think is extraordinary. At the time, we anticipated a substantially higher number of people would do it themselves. But the overwhelming majority had confidence in the work that Bob and his team and the Office of Emergency Services in partnership with our Army Corps, and they opted in, 9,576. You can see the number of parcels cleared. Just a few hundred haven't been cleared, and they're in the process as we speak of being cleared. All told, 96% now of all the debris has been removed. We could say it's substantially complete. A few hundred parcels that are in the process, in some cases, of just getting the final notification, a few hundred that are in the process of actually having to go through a little bit of extra work. And this was all advanced because of the support that we were afforded, the confidence that we were provided early on with President Biden, who was here at the ignition of the first flames of this fire, was a stone throw away from the fire Palisades and the Eaton fire scar. And he stayed in town to secure that 100% reimbursement, 100% support from the federal government. Said the answer is yes before we even asked the question. And I just want to honor that, because that's something I assure you we can't take for granted. And I just want to thank President Joe Biden for being there and initiating this process and affording us the opportunity to be in the position we are today. Thank you. The baton was passed to the Trump administration, and they have honored that commitment. As a consequence of that, we went through phase 1 and phase 2 with over $2 billion of federal resources invested. We secured an additional $3+ billion. For many of you in this room, those that couldn't be in this room today, $3 billion of SBA loans. Those are the businesses and nonprofits. Over $370 million in direct assistance that also has been provided. $3+ billion specifically has been committed in that process. $2.5 billion was committed. Members of the legislature that are here, to the Speaker and the Pro Tem, I want to thank you for your leadership and stewardship. I want to thank the members of the LA delegation in particular, many that are here today, members of the Assembly and the State Senate. I want to thank all of the work that was done on congressional delegation to support the efforts at the state level, and particularly $2.5 billion was secured as part of our special session to support relief here in the burn scars and communities impacted. We advanced 23 executive orders, specifically around accelerating permitting, to work more collaboratively with state and local partners to advance, with partnerships by the federal government to advance the debris removal, to suspend many onerous regulations and address some of the tenant protections. I just had a small community meeting just a moment ago, only reinforcing the anxiety that renters are feeling that are still haven't been able to find permanent housing, or at least permanent extended housing, are still living month to month, in some cases week to week. And the importance of having secure tenant protections for those individuals is not lost on me, particularly after that update meeting a moment ago. We extended property tax deadlines. We did some mortgage forbearance. We did some other things that I'll highlight in a moment. We continue to do more in partnership with the cities and counties, but also in partnership with the private sector and JPL and NASA and the folks that we partnered to address some of the contamination issues and air and soil monitoring. The work that UCLA has done and Loyola Marymount has done. Purdue University, also part of a consortium of folks supported by LA County Health, addressing water, air, and soil monitoring. We got all 9 water systems reactivated. Head of our EPA is here. I thank her and her team for an outstanding job. We're very mindful, and we continue to be vigilant, not naive, about coastal issues and the beaches and the ongoing monitoring around contamination, making sure it's safe, not just for people, but for marine life and the like, continues. We advanced a lot of innovative strategies and created the first of its kind digital disaster recovery center. We had never advanced a digital recovery center in our state's history that came from an innovative mindset as it relates to our engagement. Not a substitute for in-person, but a complement. We created the first direct democracy engagement tool, Engage California, to hear from the community, a community-led effort, bottom up, not top down. It's not the state, the federal government talking about what comes next, informed at the local level by local community. We put a new website up, CA.Gov/LA Fires, which is all around accountability, transparency, and data, trying to connect to all of the resources that are being made available by the cities, county, the federal government, and local nonprofits. But I wanted just to briefly, and I'll close and turn this over to the supervisor. I want to compliment the county. I want to compliment Supervisor Barger. I want to compliment the work that they just put forward earlier today around a new blueprint moving forward to rebuilding. As the U.S. Army Corps demobilizes, we are now entering the next phase. And again, an historic pace. And we have to maintain that same mindset, that same intentionality, the same deliberative focus. And we have to be, I think, mindful with humility and grace of the magnitude of what is being asked of us going forward. But one thing that is critical is that we go forward together. And I want to thank the supervisor for her partnership in particular and allowing the state to work collaboratively on the LA blueprint to maintain a cohesive framework where the state's plan and the county plan have come together. And that plan prioritizes many of the things that many of you have asked and tasked us to do. And that's around the issue of financial issues associated with those that are underinsured, are uninsured, the financial stress and anxiety, those gaps that need to be addressed to get people back home, to talk about affordability and designs and pre-approval of designs, to talk about bulk purchasing of materials, to hire builders and to leverage their strength, to look at logistics as it relates to where we are able to literally store many of those materials. Obviously doing more on permitting, and we're mindful more work has to be done on permitting. And I'll briefly highlight that in a moment as I turn it over to the supervisors. But issues around permitting are foundational, as well as addressing public infrastructure. If you're going to come back home, you want to come back home knowing that a lot of the infrastructure has been secured, that you are able to turn on the gas, you're able to turn on the water, you got the sewage system that you can connect to, you've got the internet that you can connect to as well. How do we provide for a workforce? We're here at Pasadena Community College. I want to thank the president of the Pasadena Community College. We learned a lot from Santa Rosa Community College from the Tubbs fire and their workforce development program. Pasadena Community College is replicating that and taking it to the next level. Again, lessons learned, opportunities to do more, train more, and advance a more comprehensive focus to make sure we have enough workers to advance this cause. The reference to California Jobs First references the resources that Jobs First is putting in to those partnerships and those programs. But community is about just that. And we were talking a moment ago to community leaders. It's about getting the grocery stores up so you got something to come back to. It's getting those cafes and coffee stores back up. It's about getting those child care facilities and making sure the healthcare facilities are secure. We're focused on parks. We're focused on playgrounds, sense of community, neighborhoods. And I think perhaps that's the most vexing and challenging thing. I've talked to people that are rebuilding that did get their permits. Some still struggling to get their permits, but are committed, but they're also anxious because they feel like they may build back, but no one around them has. And that sense of community is lost. And, one thing I neglected when I talked about those lives lost was, memories, photos, architectural masterpieces, historically black-owned businesses, churches, temples, that, sense of community, a loss. People's own personal belongings, all those Olympic medals that were lost, you've read about. And so the sense of community is so foundational. And so part of the LA County plan, part of the state plan, foundational part, the pillars around exercising priorities for reconstruction beyond just prioritizing individual homes. But in order to do so, and I'll close, we need to do more. And we need to be better in terms of accelerating these efforts. And so today I'll be signing another executive order addressing some of the issues that the city and county have requested of me to address as it relates for like-to-like reconstruction beyond the 110% footprint, to address some new codes that are non-life safety related that the city and county want to waive in order to reduce the cost of construction. At the same time, we advance our support in partnership with new technologies, particularly this Archistar, this new AI technology for permitting that I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that the city and county will be announcing, I believe, later this week to fast track the delivery on the promoted promises of a one-stop shop. So new executive order that we'll be putting out, more in the queue as we continue to iterate and do more moving forward. So it's time now for me to move forward, and we have a number of speakers, but I just want to conclude by thanking all of those that I just met with. Thank you again for reminding me the work we have to do. I didn't talk about the insurance market. There's so many things we can talk about today, but one thing I just want to highlight is all the outstanding leaders. I mentioned Bob Fenton. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Nancy Ward, the head of the Office of Emergency Service, who's a pro. She's next level. To the 2,500 plus general, I think it was over 2,500 of your men and women, the National Guard, that were tasked for purpose, not for politics, that secured the communities. I want to thank them. I want to thank all of those that worked day in and day out, Reese Williams, other members of our team that were so foundational and important to this disaster recovery. But again, in the spirit that I began, let me end by introducing a great partner. It's about partnership. You want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. In that spirit, we have a champion of partnership who's just been extraordinary, without exception, throughout the last many months, and we count on her going forward. It is my honor to introduce Supervisor Barger. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Governor. It really is an honor to be here. Today's 6 months anniversary is an opportunity to reflect and really to look ahead. I applaud the extraordinary, and I cannot emphasize it enough, the extraordinary collaborations that have fueled our recovery progress. I want to thank our federal partners, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the incredible U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for their swift and effective work to clear more than 10,000 properties in 6 months. I express my deep, deep appreciation to Governor Gavin Newsom and his entire administration for helping our county meet recovery challenges head-on. Since day one, Governor Newsom and I shared a core commitment that I made clear. Rebuilding our communities is not and will not be the sole burden on our survivors. The state of California has been a true partner, helping our county remove unnecessary regulatory burdens, bringing resources along with funding, and quickly moving with practical, people-first solutions. I also appreciate Mayor Karen Bass's partnership. We've worked hard to lead concurrent efforts across both the Palisades and the Eaton Fire areas. I want to acknowledge my colleague, Lindsay Horvath, who represents the Palisades area impacted by these fires. As chair of the board, my responsibility is to the entire county. But I want to be clear. My heart belongs to the community of Altadena and Pasadena. I'm focused on supporting Altadena's recovery with urgency, compassion, and coordination. We have a roadmap to help us navigate the next phase of recovery for all. We're calling it LA County Forward Blueprint for Rebuilding. It's going to be available, and this is going to be something that is going to help people navigate the rebuilding effort. Our recovery plan has 6 core pillars. The first pillar is making rebuilding financially possible. The Board of Supervisors recently approved my motion to defer permit fees for homeowners rebuilding in unincorporated areas. County permit fees can often exceed $20,000, and that represents a significant obstacle for wildfire survivors. I'm confident that we'll be identifying long-term funding solutions to permanently waive these costs, but that finding is going to be on me, not on the survivors. Our blueprint's second pillar is accelerating permitting and inspections. We've launched a faster permit review, self-certification for licensed professionals, and deployed a public dashboard for transparency. With the state's partnership and resources, we are launching an AI-powered software on July 15th and are adding more staff to keep pace with the demand. This is going to be front and center for me moving forward. Our third pillar is expanding access to builders and materials. Together, with state leaders and private sector partners, we're scaling up the pool of builders, promoting pre-approved designs, and working to stabilize supply chains so that no one is left waiting for a contractor or for their materials. Our fourth pillar is investing in infrastructure. Again, in coordination with the state and utilities, we're undergrounding over 150 miles of power and telecommunications lines. This is significant in the Altadena area. This is a generational investment in safety, reliability, and resilience. We've also been focusing on rebuilding for our critical utilities, including Altadena's water systems. Our blueprint's fifth pillar is mobilizing the workforce. We're partnering with the state workforce development programs to ensure that we have trained workers ready to meet the moment. This includes logistics support, so rebuilding doesn't stall from preventable delays. Our blueprint's sixth and final pillar is bringing back community services. We're working to restore schools, parks, businesses, services for seniors, and childcare. Everything that makes a neighborhood whole. I want to look to you, Governor, and thank you for your partnership. You have been incredible, and this is what happens when you work together and put the needs of your community first. So I want to give you a round of applause. Your leadership and that of your entire administration has been essential to making this all happen. Los Angeles County is proud to stand with you. To the residents of Altadena and surrounding regions, know this: you are front and center in my thoughts every single day. I and the federal, state, and local partners that have gathered here today are committed to delivering the support that you deserve. We are not and will not waver from this promise. Now, I would like to introduce the Deputy Mayor for the City of Los Angeles, Rachel Freeman. Welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor, and good afternoon, everyone. Due to an emerging event, unfortunately, Mayor Bass is not able to join us today, but I'll be providing some remarks on her behalf, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you all today. I first want to take a moment to acknowledge the devastation in Central Texas right now and the heartbreak that communities experienced after what should have been a celebratory July 4th weekend. Our hearts are with all of Central Texas right now. I think we all woke up this morning with the same thought, that it's truly hard to believe it's been 6 months since one of the worst natural disasters in state's history. And although 6 months have passed, we cannot thank our firefighters and first responders enough for their ongoing bravery and dedication. They are LA's true heroes. On behalf of Mayor Bass, I want to thank Governor Newsom, Supervisor Barger, for every step of the way they have been collaborative and collective in our approach on this recovery. And to Senator Padilla and Congresswoman Chu, and Congressman Sherman for always fighting for us in Washington, and to Senate Pro Tem Mike McGuire for always fighting for us in Sacramento. Our recovery effort has been truly an all-hands-on-deck approach at every level of government. And we're here today because 6 months ago, our city was hit by a massive firestorm that brought hurricane-force winds on the heels of months of drought, devastating the Palisades and sweeping through Malibu and Altadena with catastrophic results. And in those early days in January, many wondered how we could possibly come back. But we stand here today after 6 months of resilience, 6 months of neighbors supporting neighbors, 6 months of government, philanthropy, the private sector, community organizations, neighborhood councils, chambers of commerce, and the countless members of the community that have come together to care and nurture one another. They've come together to innovate and push the envelope to deliver what is on track to be the fastest disaster recovery in our state's history, the fastest hazardous materials cleanup in EPA history, and the restoration of utilities in record time. Debris removal that is months ahead of schedule, speeding up the timeline to get families back home. We have forged new partnerships to rebuild key community spaces like the Palisades Rec Center and Palisades Playground, which will reopen later this month. And with more than 640 plan check applications submitted, construction is well underway in the Palisades, and LA is moving beyond the initial emergency response firmly into the rebuilding phase. Make no mistake, the magnitude of the loss here is really earth-shattering. And losing a home is not just about losing property or a physical space, it's about security, it's about belonging, and it's about the memories and keepsakes that families will not get back. It's the place where we as a collective foster community and connection. Our hearts continue to break for every family who lost their home and for those who lost their lives. Through this process, our office has met some of the strongest families and small business owners that we have known over the course of the last few months. And we owe it to them and the rest of Angelenos to continue working around the clock to do everything in our power to rebuild as quickly and safely as possible. It's our sacred duty. Together, we've set the pace, and as you've heard today, we will continue collaborating at all levels of government until our communities are rebuilt stronger and better than they were before. The City of Los Angeles is ready for this moment, and we are LA Strong. Thank you, everyone, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome Senator Padilla up here to the stage. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I agree. It's hard to believe it's been 6 months. Los Angeles has been through a lot. Our country's been through a lot. Our communities are going through a lot. But if the teamwork of this year to date is any indicator, I know we'll continue to get through. We're going to get through, and we'll be stronger and more resilient than ever in so many ways. You hear a lot of thank yous today, and it is indicative of the partnerships that have really risen to the occasion, not just federal, state, and local agencies and all the expertise at the federal level from FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers and EPA and others that I'll talk about here in a minute, but so many state departments and agencies, county departments and agencies, city departments and agencies, and yes, even elected officials. I think a lot of times constituents can be a little cynical and when they witness a lot of finger pointing on TV and nowadays through social media, but that's not what you have right now. You have embracing and people truly working together. And so in that spirit, I too want to thank the leadership, the tirelessness of Governor Gavin Newsom. And if my marriage is any indicator, I need to also acknowledge and honor the love and support and patience of first partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom. our county supervisors, our mayors, not just Mayor Bass, Mayor Gordo, so many others, like I said, the true professionals in government, proud public servants at all levels. I know many, especially at the federal level, who feel a little bit under the gun in the political climate that we're in, but are nonetheless stepping up to do the job with the professionalism that the American people deserve. Thank you, all of you. And I too want to take a moment to acknowledge what's going on in Texas right now. I think our hearts go out as Californians to the people in Texas who have suffered so much this last weekend. Those who have lost loved ones because of the flash floods, and those that are just so anxious, waiting to account for missing friends and family. It is an absolute reminder that Mother Nature does not discriminate. Natural disasters can impact any state, any region in the country, regardless of your political leanings. Californians have risen up and stood for other Californians. We've stood up for neighbors across the country time and time again, and I know we will continue to do so after this tragedy. Can't believe it's been 6 months. 6 months when we all woke up, literally from one day to the next, to the largest disaster imaginable. Won't go through the conditions that led to not just the fires, but the quickly growing fires. In talking to my colleagues in the course of the last 6 months, jaws literally drop in the halls of Congress when I describe the scale of the impact, not just the intensity, because you see the intensity of it from the images that we've all seen repeatedly over the last 6 months. But when I described to my colleagues that, yes, this was more than 3 times the size of Manhattan that was burned, it is truly unprecedented. When the fires broke out, we saw so many first responders, local law enforcement, fire department personnel, and others quickly jump to the scene. And through mutual aid, so many from throughout the state and throughout the country come to the aid of Southern California. I don't know if we'll ever be able to quantify how many lives were saved as a result, how many properties were saved as a result. And so 6 months later, we continue to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, an acknowledgement of the federal departments and agencies from FEMA to the Army Corps of Engineers and EPA for the record cleanup and recovery and assistance that the governor mentioned earlier. We're proud of the response and recognize that there's still a very long road ahead for so many families and for so many communities. And it's because of the importance of the recovery, the importance and the urgency of the need to rebuild, that I have to call out what else is happening. You see, because we're entering the next peak fire season. Fire season is now year-round in California, but peak fire season is just beginning. These fires took place in wintertime, not in the hot, dry months of summer. So our National Guard's troops have been taken away from critical preparation activity for the next peak wildfire season to do other work. 150, I understand, are coming back. We need them all to come back because they have important mission work to do. This is the time to be investing more in FEMA and empowering FEMA, not attacking FEMA or threatening to eliminate FEMA. Because the people of Texas are relying on FEMA as we speak. We've come to appreciate FEMA even more. Again, no region of the country is immune. And this is also the time, as California has done for so long, to respect and honor the contributions of so many immigrants in our communities, because many of them work in construction. They're the construction workers that we need to continue the rebuilding process for our communities. This is absolutely not the time to threaten or terrorize construction workers and their families in our community. I say this because I'm proud to represent California. California will always answer the call to help our neighbors. And we'll figure out a way through the budget reconciliation impacts, not just in the healthcare space, but in so many other areas of the federal budget that are so critical for our communities in times of disasters and in recovery from disasters. And I'll continue to fight for the communities of Pasadena, Altadena, the Palisades, and others that have been impacted this year. Now, before I turn it over to our next speaker, just a few remarks in Spanish for the Spanish language press that is here. Estamos aquí reconociendo los 6 meses que han pasado desde de los incendios enormes de este enero pasado. Hemos pasado por bien mucho como comunidad, como la región de Los Ángeles y como el país, los Estados Unidos de América. Pero el progreso en reconstruyendo, preparando nuestras comunidades para reconstruir ha sido posible por la colaboración de tantos niveles del gobierno, tantos oficiales y tantos departamentos y agencias que saben que el compromiso número 1 es a los residentes de nuestras comunidades. Tenemos un largo camino todavía enfrente de nosotros, pero siguiendo unidos vamos a tomar esos pasos y a reconstruir no solo nuestros hogares, no solo nuestros vecindarios, pero nuestras vidas. Reconocemos el sufrimiento que está ocurriendo ahorita en el estado de Texas y los apoyaremos como sea posible. Pero reconocemos ese desastre, los desastres de enero aquí en California y otros en otras regiones del país, para recordarnos la importancia de invertir más en los departamentos y agencias que vienen a ayudarnos en momentos de desastre, no tratar de recortar los fondos como esta administración ha proponido y lo está haciendo. Es tiempo de invertir más y apoderar los profesionales del gobierno federal y estatal y local, porque bien entienden los residentes de Texas en este momento y otras regiones del país en sus momentos de crisis. Yo seguiré comprometido a asegurar los recursos necesarios vienen a nuestra comunidad para seguir no solo reconstruyendo, pero recuperando como comunidad. And with that, I want to introduce another fearless and tireless champion for this region, one of our main partners and leaders in the House of Representatives, someone who's celebrating a birthday as well, I understand. Congressmember Judy Chu.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. And thank you, Governor Newsom, for bringing us together today and for your incredibly strong and unwavering leadership over the last 6 months. The night of January 7th was one of the darkest moments our communities have ever faced. In my district, which includes Altadena and Pasadena, the Eaton fire destroyed nearly 9,500 structures, displaced over 20,000 people, and claimed the lives of 18 of our neighbors. But in that time of immense fear and uncertainty, we saw our communities come together like never before. Heroic first responders risked their lives to protect ours. Regional and national advocates and organizations, including PCC, opened food and donation banks for the many survivors who fled with only their clothes on. And the brave survivors of this wildfire showed their I heard from so many people who, despite having their own home burned down, helped their neighbors through the most trying of times. And I was so grateful for the response of our federal agencies, from the SBA Disaster Assistance Program to EPA to our U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and of course, FEMA, which has been nothing short of life-saving. Since January, FEMA has delivered more than $140 million in direct federal aid to the survivors of the Eaton and Palisades fire. Thousands have received temporary housing and other life-saving services. But I'm continuing to push FEMA to use every tool available, including the direct lease program, to make thank you, to make sure that every survivor has a roof over their head as they continue to rebuild their lives. But while our communities are still picking up the pieces, President Trump has threatened to eliminate FEMA entirely, slash funding for local firefighters and emergency responders, and withhold federal aid from California. And this is why I have to say, right this minute, wildfires have no political affiliation. Disaster recovery should never be used as leverage, whether the disaster is in California, North Carolina, or Texas. I certainly will not stop fighting in Congress to fulfill Governor Newsom's request and pass a $40 billion supplemental disaster package with no strings attached. This funding is so critical to rebuilding homes, reopening businesses, and restoring our communities. This is the United States of America. We help our citizens when disaster strikes, no matter where they live or who they voted for. So to both the Palisades and Eaton fire survivors, I say, we are still here, we are still fighting, and we will not stop until you have everything that you need to recover and rebuild. So thank you, and now I have the pleasure of introducing my amazing partner in our fire recovery efforts, Congressmember Brad Sherman.
Hello, I'm Brad Sherman from America's best named city, Sherman Oaks, and I represent the San Fernando Valley and the Pacific Palisades. I first want to acknowledge two disasters that are on our minds right now. The first are the terrible floods that afflicted Texas, and the second is the man-made disaster occurring right now in MacArthur Park. Governor, thank you so much for all you've done, starting by pre-positioning firefighting resources in Southern California before the first spark. I want to thank the Biden administration for funding FEMA and SBA back in December so that it would have the resources necessary to deal with whatever afflicted us in 2025. And as a result of that and Biden declaring this a federal disaster area, the federal government has been able to do a fair amount. 11,000 loans totaling $3 billion at roughly 3% interest. 35,000 households receiving assistance grants totaling $150 million. $2.5 billion for debris removal, so that at least is a cost that homeowners do not have to face. And $7 billion to reimburse state and local government for firefighting and to rebuild public infrastructure. But frankly, that isn't enough to deal with the uninsured, particular businesses, but particularly homeowners. And that is why we have got to do far more. Now, President Trump came to the Palisades just hours, days after the fires. And I thought he would come out to applaud and thank FEMA, the workers who were doing 12, 15-hour shifts. Instead, he proposed abolishing FEMA, a bad idea. And then he put forward the idea that we would hold hostage the victims of the LA fires until California changed unrelated laws. Never has that happened in history, and never would Alex or Judy and I think of voting against hurricane aid because we didn't like the Louisiana abortion laws, though of course we would very much hope that those laws would change. So the basic package, which is provided for in law, is always supplemented when you have a major disaster. And AccuWeather values this disaster in terms of its economic cost at $250 billion, making it one of the largest disasters, perhaps the largest disaster in American history, certainly the largest fire disaster in American history. Yet individual homeowners are eligible to get grants of $87,000. That's good, but if you're uninsured or underinsured, it's certainly not enough to rebuild. That is why Alex and Judy and I and the entire delegation support the governor's $40 billion package, and we've got to get it passed, perhaps as a supplemental that also includes the Texas disaster and other disasters that we have faced. And I couldn't have, I do want to point out that we can assure the country that we're going to build back better. The new building in the Palisades will be subject to the 2008 State Fire Code. That code was so successful in the Paradise Fire that the structures there, majority of them survived if they met that code. But of course the code didn't apply to buildings built before that date. So we are going to rebuild. We are going to have great communities in Altadena and the Pacific Palisades, and we're going to build back better. And we're going to get the federal aid that California is entitled to, given the size of this disaster. And I couldn't have better allies and partners in fighting for that aid than Senator Padilla and Congresswoman Judy Chu. And the governor couldn't have a better partner than first partner Jennifer Seibel Newsom. Please come on.
Buenos días. Cuando visité a Los Ángeles durante los incendios, conocí a muchas personas que, a pesar de enfrentar tanto sufrimiento y pérdida, ayudaron a sus vecinos, como le dijo Judy, entregando comida, donando ropa, rescatando mascotas y abriendo sus casas a quienes habían perdido sus casas. Servidores públicos de todo tipo, líderes religiosos, educadores y comunidades enteras, incluyendo nuestras comunidades inmigrantes, se unieron para que nuestros hijos regresaran a las escuelas, nuestras bibliotecas abrieron y nuestros parques, negocios y carreteras volvieron a funcionar. El trabajo continúa. Y en eso ustedes continúan mostrando a cada uno de ustedes y al mundo entero lo mejor de esa comunidad. California recibe muchas críticas, pero su éxito es muy claro. El sueño californiano y esta ciudad, su latida, sigue siendo la mayor historia de éxito del mundo. California es todo eso porque apoyamos nuevas ideas y nuevas voces, no a pesar de ellos. No creemos que si ganamos, otras personas tengan que sufrir. Que si protegemos a nuestro clima o a las comunidades inmigrantes, nuestra economía fracasará. No vemos al mundo ni a nuestros vecinos como enemigos, los vemos como amigos. Somos el centro de inclusión, innovación y libertad en todo el mundo y una fuerza cultural y económica, porque nos apoyamos en nuestra creatividad y nuestras diferencias y siempre miramos hacia el futuro. Todavía tenemos mucho más por hacer y un largo camino por delante en la reconstrucción, pero yo sé que los californianos y los angelinos harán lo que siempre han hecho: arremangarse y mirar hacia el futuro con soleado optimismo, tratar a nuestros vecinos con amabilidad y tolerancia y seguir soñando en grande. Porque cuando nos unimos y seguimos viendo hacia el futuro, nada nos puede detener. Este es el amor de California y juntos somos la fuerza de California. So, buenos días, and I just wanted to share again briefly that visiting LA during the fires, I met with so many who, despite facing so much suffering and loss themselves, were out helping their neighbors, delivering food, donating clothes, rescuing pets, opening their homes to those who had lost theirs. Public servants of all kinds, faith-based leaders, educators, entire communities, including our immigrant community, came together to get our kids back to school, open our libraries, get our parks and businesses and roads back up and running. The work obviously continues, and in it, you keep showing us and each other and the world the very best of us. As we continue to face more and more climate-related disasters like these devastating fires and the flooding tragedy this past weekend in Texas, it is more important than ever that we build resilience in our communities. There are a lot of critiques aimed at California, but it's hard to argue with success. The California dream and this city, its heartbeat, is still the world's greatest single success story. California, let's not forget, is the fourth largest economy in the world, home to the most beautiful coastlines, mountains, and public lands on the planet. The center of the world's creative and innovation-based economies, from Hollywood to Silicon Valley and Silicon Beach just here in LA. The state with the most educated, diverse workforce due to our top public universities. The #1 manufacturing state in the United States. The 5th largest producer of agriculture in the world, the largest in the country. The birthplace of the environmental movement, having led the charge for clean air and water, healthier foods, and organic farming. California is all these things because we embrace new ideas and new voices, not in spite of them. We're the opposite of zero-sum thinking that seems to have taken over some leaders in Washington, D.C. We don't think that if we gain, someone else must lose. That if we protect our climate or immigrant communities, our economy will fail. No, we don't look at the world or our neighbors as our enemies. We look to them as our friends. We are a beacon of inclusion, innovation, and freedom around the world, and a cultural and economic powerhouse. Because we lean into our creativity and our differences. And let's not forget, we always look to the future. We still have so much work to do and a long road ahead of rebuilding. But I know that California and Angelenos will do what they've always done. they'll roll up their sleeves and look forward with sunny optimism to the future. They'll treat their neighbors with kindness and tolerance, and they'll continue to dream big. Because when we come together like this and we keep looking to the future, nothing will stop us. This is California love, and together we remain California strong. Thank you.
Pasadena City College. We just finished the governor's presentation. I'm here to once again thank the governor for his commitment to DENA, and in particular to Pasadena City College from day one. He's not just been here today, he's been here every day. He's been a great partner, and we're tremendously grateful for everything that he's done for this campus, our students, our staff, and our neighbors. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Governor
Thank you.
Newsom.
And we'll be counting on you for those workforce, that workforce that we just highlighted. Look, I want to just thank everybody for taking the time to be out here. And as was shared by the Senator and the congressional representatives, just also want to extend all of our best. Our hearts go out to the folks in Texas. And, you know, for many folks, it's particularly personal. My wife's closest friend growing up, she just left and reminded me to remind you of the Walker family. There was a vigil last night in Marin County. Mark, his wife, and his 14-year-old son, who's very close with so many kids, including my own son in the Marin County area. They're missing. Thankfully, their 16-year-old daughter was found, and it's just, you know, another reminder of how devastating this tragedy is, and obviously continues to unfold in just excruciating ways. Anyone with kids understands that. We quite literally have 4 kids at camp as I speak. One in Davis, one in New York, 2, thank God, day camps, but 2 with overnight camps. And I think for anyone, again, particularly daughters, but with children, you know, just puts everything in perspective. And it's also just a reminder of the 30 lives lost here. You know, that this devastation continues to persist, and it's why we're all in this together. And that's the spirit. I mean, I think it's a spirit that defines the presentation and the partnerships that we sought and were advanced. I'm deeply grateful to that baton, as I mentioned, that was passed from the Biden administration, the Trump administration. I'm grateful for the administration's support, for the EPA's support, and Lee Zeldin and the work they did in that first phase. I'm grateful for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We highlighted the incredible work of FEMA, Bob Fenton in particular was lead out here, the federal government that stepped up in extraordinary ways to the men and women behind me. These are familiar faces at CAL FIRE that have been here from day one and continue to be here. And just a reminder as well that the work we're doing and continue to do as we, as Senator Padilla said, enter into peak fire season, and how sober and serious these disasters are, how sober and serious disaster recovery is, but also preparedness is as well. Just a few points that were not shared in terms of putting this disaster recovery in perspective. Is the equivalent of 2 times the size of Ground Zero at 9/11. Over close to 250,000, 214,000 truckloads of debris was removed, which is just an extraordinary logistical triumph, just in a very short period of time. As I said, substantially complete, 96+%. You could argue 99 as it relates to just cleaning up some paperwork with some parcels, but there are a few hundred parcels left. And so as they begin to demobilize over the course of the next few weeks, none of us are naive that there are parcels remaining that need debris removal. There are close to 2,000 people that have chosen their own path to the debris removal, and there are commercial properties that are independent of this process and are working through their insurance issues to address their debris needs as well. The reason the supplemental is so important is to address those gaps on underinsured and uninsured, to address all of those myriads of gaps for small business owners, for renters, not just landlords, for people that simply will not have the cash flow to get back in. Our number one now imperative is to try to restore some hope for those that may have lost it, that may have moved on and may have offered their property up for sale, to hopefully get them to reconsider and to resubmit their application, their permit to rebuild. There were some that estimated this process would take 18 months, and by some objective assessments, that was not unrealistic. The fact that we were able to achieve this 6-7 months, I hope, gives people some confidence that continuing that spirit of intention and partnership, that we can move mountains, the difficult and challenging bottlenecks, those mountains as it relates to permitting and inspections and dealing with contractors, constructions, logistics, right-of-ways, all of those things that were laid out in the plan that Supervisor Barger put out, the plan that's amplified by the state plan in the partnership we advanced with Boston Consulting Group. And so that's the focus now. This new AI tool we think is going to be significant. I want to thank Steadfast LA for their support of that, Department of Angels for their support. I want to thank the Urban Land Institute, so many others, including LA Rises, that have been part of this effort. A lot of nonprofits have emerged, Habitat for Humanity that's committed to rebuilding homes here in Altadena. The work that has been done by Foothill Foundation, that's the Foothill Catalog Foundation, that is also providing these pre-approved architectural designs and are supporting the community. UCLA has been incredible, the Urban Land Institute, as I noted. All of these partnerships that emerged, and the Annenberg Foundation, continue to supplement where we can moving forward. I'll be going tonight, quite literally in the next hour or so, to South Carolina to highlight and reinforce that message that we're all in this together, to work at a state-by-state level. We've worked with the National Governors Association. We've worked with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We're obviously working with Senator Padilla and our congressional delegation to get bipartisan support for disaster supplemental. But we want to highlight that, and we'll continue to highlight that in terms of other states that are seeking that support in real time as well. And as I said in the outset, Texas only reminds us this notion that we're many parts and one body. Final point. What a disgrace what's happening in MacArthur Park. What theater. On the 6-month anniversary, after all, of these fires, that's the message from the polluted heart of the President of the United States, the polluted heart of Stephen Miller. Those National Guard men and women that were out there protecting people are now being used as political pawns, out there on horsebacks running through soccer fields in the middle of the day, timed around announcements and events like this. It says everything you and I need to know about the state of mind of the President of the United States in this administration. So to those that feel torn asunder by everything that's happened over the course of the last 6 months, notably highlighted and reinforced last 6 weeks and over the course of the last 60 minutes and day like today, I want folks to know we have your back and we'll continue to come back and do what we can to protect our diverse communities, to protect the spirit that defines the best of this city and our state, and to push back against this cruelty. To push back against this cruelty that is being perpetuated by the President of the United States. With that, happy to answer any questions.
What is the linkage? You didn't mention it in your talk earlier, but the Senator did, the House members did, the linkage between the recovery in Pasadena and in the Palisades and the immigration rates. I mean, the mayor was supposed to be here, but ended up in MacArthur Park.
Well, look, you got estimated 41% of our workforce in the construction side, and that's a unique California stat. We're much higher. Texas and California have the two highest percentage of people without documentation, immigrants working in our constructions unions and trades, people that are also not in the unions and trades. And so it's foundational to our recovery for him to, intentionally do what he did today. They know what they're doing. And then again, they have no idea what they're doing. And their ignorance is legendary. And the impacts of this will be felt in the recovery. And that's on them. Donald Trump owns that. He owns the cruelty. He owns the arrogance, not just the ignorance. it's by definition weakness. Only a weak person puts on a show like that with horses and bringing the National Guard that should be out there raking his forests. Rick Grinnell, his so-called czar, had the audacity today to attack this state on this anniversary for not raking its forest when we have a federal forest fire over 80,000 acres on Donald Trump's forest that these folks behind me are managing. California is an instant command leader on that. That has provided 30% of that fire to now be contained.
Governor, the Border Patrol Chief, Gregory Bovino, said to Fox, "I don't work for Karen Bass. Better get used to us now because this is going to be normal very soon. We will go anywhere, anytime we want in Los Angeles."
Tough guy.
What's your response?
Tough guy. He does work for us. He may want to check his pay stub. He's a public servant. We're taxpayers. He works for the people of the United States of America, and he has a constitutional obligation in that respect. So, with all due respect to him, he better do a better job.
Do you think Republicans are going to give you the money that you're asking for if this conflict...
We're all in this together. I'm going to South Carolina. I think they should get every penny of what they need. North Carolina should get every penny of what they need. Proud to be there in Louisiana in Speaker Johnson's old district. He should have gotten every penny that they received, every penny that they need, every resource that we can provide, including resources from the state that we offered early Friday morning to Greg Abbott, we should provide. That's the spirit that defines the best of this country, our nation, that's about to celebrate its 250th anniversary. Absolutely, I expect that we will figure out a path, a bipartisan path to support the people of the United States of America, and those include the 40 million Americans residing in California.
Governor, immigration rates, a lot of people have told me, people who have family members who've been disappeared is the term they're using.
That's the right term.
They say that they feel like the sanctuary state policies and sanctuary city policies failed them. So, two questions. Is there anything the state can do to prevent what is happening, like today at MacArthur Park, or other raids that happen where people are taken? Like today, I don't think we have reports that anybody was detained.
Yeah, which only reinforces the theater, the spectacle, the cruelty, the weakness expressed by the very statement of the border czar that apparently wasn't able to find an arrest. How weak, how weak, how pathetic, how cruel. As it relates to the sanctuary policies, they're limited in their scope and effectiveness. LA's sanctuary policy is different than San Diego's, different than San Francisco's, different than Fresno's. The state, altogether different. As you know, the state of California has cooperated as it relates to the transfer of criminals, people that are lifers coming out of the state system. Over 11,000 people. Just since I've been governor, I've coordinated with ICE. This is not about going after dangerous criminals. This is about going after members of our community that have been here 10, 20, 30 years. This is about destroying the fabric of this state. It's about taking this state down. That's what this is about. It's intentional. And it is cruel. It's increasingly inhumane. And it's increasingly become a spectacle. And it's become theater. But real people's lives are being impacted. And so we'll continue to do what we can through our network, our response, rapid response network, to your question. We'll continue to do what we can to support people's legal rights, their due process under the Constitution of the United States. We continue to file lawsuits and continue to win those lawsuits. There is at least one other branch of government operating. And it is certainly not the legislature. It's not Congress. They have given up that role and responsibility. Speaker Johnson has abdicated that. But the courts still remain. And that will be a pathway for us to do more. But the rapid response networks, community, nonprofits, leaders well established in the state become foundational in terms of protecting our communities, and supporting people at a time where they're feeling terrorized by these cruel antics and theatrics in the middle of a soccer field with horses.
Governor,
how pathetic.
Has there been any improvement with the dialogue with the federal government? You look at what happened in Texas. Talk about the National Guard. I know you're getting 150 of them back, but if there were to be another fire here, which could happen at any time, how Texas kind of shows that we really do need those Guard troops.
Well, you've got 5,000 people that, between those that have been federalized, the National Guard, men and women, and the U.S. Marines in L.A., well, or in armories waiting around for assignments. They've been taken off the crews that are doing vegetation and forest management. Those are our rattlesnake teams. They've been taken off our counter-narcotics task forces addressing the issues of fentanyl and dealing with border-related issues. These are teachers. These are firefighters. I'll repeat that. The National Guard that have been federalized are teachers, firefighters, paramedics. These are folks that are not on the job to protect you, purely for theater and antics. Less than 20% have been directed for any formal role. The rest are sitting around doing nothing except feeding the ego of the President of the United States, who is shrinking every single day in the eyes of the American people. Let them get back home. Let them get back to work.
Governor, if Trump makes good on his promise to scale back FEMA, what is California preparing to do to backfill that shortfall? And do you have any concerns that your relationship with the president may impact the future of federal assistance for California?
Well, you can't backfill the elimination of FEMA. There's no state in America, even the most endowed state, $4.1 trillion a year economy, largest in this nation, fourth largest in the world. We don't have the resources to ultimately do that, but we have increased our discretionary reserves as a consequence of those concerns, so we can front load some of that. And we were very mindful on the $4.5 billion, what we refer to as an SFEU in our budget of that concern and that question. And as it relates to working with the president, I maintained this posture through other difficult and challenging times, including in COVID. Open hand, not a closed fist when it comes to emergency preparedness and emergency planning, recovery, and renewal. Period, full stop. That should be non-political. I maintain that posture in strong support of Governor Abbott and the people of Texas. I'll reinforce that in a red state where I'll land this evening and tomorrow in strong support of their requests in the South. And I will be there. We will be there on behalf of the American people, on behalf of the state of California and the 40 million Americans that are here. I believe they enthusiastically want us to be there when the next hurricane hits in Florida or Georgia. We'll be there. The swift water teams will be there. CAL FIRE will be there. The investigators will be there. Across the spectrum, we've sent teams, the C-130s, if they need them, they'll be there. That's the spirit that finds the best of this country. So I expect and hope that despite, as Brad Sherman said, our interesting differences, that we can unite around the things that bind us together.
Governor Newsom, on the insurance question, you mentioned it very briefly during your talk. There are a lot of people who are saying that they are not getting the payout that they believe they've earned by paying insurance over the years. This is a letter that a lot of people are sending to you from Altadena. They are asking, what can you do to help them get insurance payouts that they have not received yet?
Yeah, so the insurance commissioner is tasked to focus and investigate some of the delays in claims and these concerns. And the insurance commissioner is doing precisely that. And he's got all the support from our administration and the legislature to advance that. That's the job of the insurance commissioner. Our job as well is to work together, the legislature, the insurance commissioner, and this administration, to advance the principles that we laid out with our sustainable insurance strategy. We put out that plan through an executive order over a year and a half ago. We began the process of implementing that plan last year. In many ways, the stabilization, as unstable as it is, of the FAIR plan came out of the execution of the first phase of the implementation of the sustainable plan. As it relates to specifically the claims and how quickly they're being distributed, and as it relates to the type of concerns, as it relates to each policyholder, your insurance commissioner has our support as he investigates that.
Is that not passing the buck, Governor?
It's the insurance commissioner's job. That's the agency's job. He has the support. That's not passing the buck. That's reinforcing a commitment. The executive order, the sustainable insurance plan, the work of the legislature, all of us supporting those efforts. Quite the contrary.
If I may piggyback off of that, I mean, when you walked in today, there was a group of homeowners who are unhappy with the response from their insurance carrier.
Yeah.
In addition to that, recently a court ruled in regards to smoke damage claims.
Yeah.
When it comes to the FAIR plan, what's the likelihood that that ruling may expand to carriers like, say, Allstate?
Well, I can't specifically relate to the details of the litigation and however that was adjudicated as it relates to the FAIR plan. But as it relates to that process and as it relates to that investigation, that work needs to be done. It needs to be aggressively advanced. And the process is unfolding in real time with the insurance commissioner. I wish the commissioner was here. He could talk about the status, and I would encourage you to inquire with the insurance commissioner the status of those investigations. The state's oversight is limited even on the FAIR plan. Remember, it's not a state plan. It's not passing the buck. These are just facts. The FAIR plan is a syndicate pool, was established in 1967, and its component parts include the admitted markets and contributions that are made. There is a board. We have a number of people we appoint that don't even have a vote on that board, and we obviously are monitoring part of the larger insurance reforms that we're advancing, the claims process with the FAIR plan, not just the admitted market. But as it relates to State Farm and others, it's well-known, well-established. Investigations are ongoing by the insurance commissioner who announced that. You can talk to him about the details of it. Final point. For those, and this is a critical point, for those that are underinsured, for those without insurance, that's why we're asking for the supplemental from the federal government. That's why we need more support from the feds to provide additional resources to address those gaps. It's why we've gone out and raised tens of millions of dollars by local nonprofits to support their efforts, to support recovery across the spectrum. Those organizations I referenced, many, many others that are doing just that. It's exactly why I'm going to South Carolina, to substantively address those issues. Some people simply didn't have insurance for some of these claims, but they need the support. And the state is doing what it can to get support from the federal government beyond the $2.5 billion that I put up with the legislature's support, so we can address the lack of access to need. And so that's all part and parcel of this broader effort.
Governor, when we spoke in January, you talked about that you wanted to have an investigation into the water issues, water pressure issues, why the reservoir was empty.
August.
What have you seen in terms of that investigation or any changes?
We have the investigation, the broader issue, after action report comes out next month. I don't know the exact date next month, but we anticipate. There's the face of the investigation there. Well, at least the launch of the investigation is independent review, and we'll have that information for you in August.
But if I may, sir,
there's a British philosopher, Samuel Johnson, once said there are two reasons for every action: a good reason and a real reason. The good reason for South Carolina is to talk about commonality of interest when it comes to natural disasters. Some would say, is it a coincidence that that is the first state in the 2028 primary election?
Well, you don't know that, I don't know that, and so that's why I would suggest it's what it is. It's been an ongoing issue for for me to work with governors, not just Democratic governors, but Republican governors, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and others that have been impacted, and get the support at the subnational level, meaning at the gubernatorial level. We've been doing it through the DGA with Democrats, working now with the NGA. We've been up on the Hill, the Capitol, and now we're starting to reach out directly to governors. It won't be the last state, and there'll be other states that are off the map. So the cynics out there can sort of, I think, resolve any of their anxiety or growing cynicism.
Are we still at sub-zero interest in running for president?
Oh, God. I mean, Jesus, that's just... Cynics? What's cynics? As he smiles, for the record, for all of you who couldn't see his face.
What can you tell us about permits going forward? That's a huge issue that people are concerned about.
Well, that's exactly what we talked about today. And I hope you'll pay particular attention to what Supervisor Barger had in her hands. And let me get to that. And what I presented in my slides, which laid out the areas, the pillars, as we referred to them, of the 120-day next phase, moving from debris removal to recovery. That was aided and supported by independent consultants looking at best practices in recovery across the globe, and was done in partnership with the state to link arms with the county. That plan in detail will be out in just a week or so, and that is the plan to which we look to advance. Part of that plan, and within a matter of days, will be the first phase pilot of this new AI technology that we procured in partnership with philanthropy. A number of those groups I just mentioned, LA Rises, as it relates to Steadfast and others, we pulled together resources to procure an AI for plan checking, pre-approvals, and the first phase of that will be initiated within a week or so, and then be scaled to address some of those direct issues. The state's vision is realized at the local level, but localism is determinative as it relates. It's not passing the buck. Governor of California, not mayor of California. City, county, planning, review, inspections. State resourcing that and clearing any thickets, including CEQA. The EO that I referenced at the end of my presentation includes additional CEQA reform and Coastal Act reform beyond the 22 prior executive orders that I advanced, specifically addressing requests that came from the city and county on a number of issues, including updated building codes that go into effect prospectively in January of next year, and how that could actually create some difficulty with existing permit requests. So we're waiving some of those requirements for non-life safety codes. We're also addressing the anxiety that has been expressed about the like-for-like permits that people can get in a more expedited way that have some constraints related to CEQA and the Coastal Act to give them more flexibility. Both requests that came from the city and county and requests that are being fulfilled in the executive order that quite literally, no exaggeration, I will be signing the second that we end this press conference and will officially go into effect. I have SB 1 to 2000. There are 2,000 bills that I'm tracking, so 79 is...
High-density along transit lines.
Oh, gosh, I just did two of the most significant historic housing bills ever passed in California history, and I'm particularly proud of that and proud of the legislature. We were able to stipulate that there's a budget and housing reform, but you couldn't have one without the other. And so those were significant as it relates to other housing initiatives and efforts. We'll be taking a look at that on the merits and be reviewing them along the lines of the other 2,000 bills that are still being dealt with.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Sorry.
There's lawsuits against them regarding the
Yes, there are.
fire. What can the state do to hold that power company accountable?
It can independently adjudicate the facts of what may or may not have occurred and not politicize that process and that investigation. That's how. We hold whoever is accountable. The independent review is independent of the specific investigation as it relates to the origin story of the Eaton fire. You've got investigations reviewing the origin story as it relates to the Palisades fire as well. The impact of both investigations will be outsized, and if the utility is liable, they ultimately will be held to account. That said, you should be mindful of this. They will also likely, if that's the case, and I do not know, nor do you, nor does anyone, that is being independently reviewed. But the impact of that could be felt not just to one utility. It could impact utilities statewide, because the consequence and the liability exposure may be so large that it can impact the wildfire fund that we established after the bankruptcy of PG&E under SB 1057. We created a wildfire fund with the capacity to pay up to about $21 billion in claims. That wildfire fund would be stressed by that ultimate determination, and that's another reason that we have spent a great deal of time with our consultants and with legislative leaders to stress test that and the impact that would have on the entire independently owned utility market and access to capital and rates for all utility users in the state. So these are big, big questions, big burdens, potentially. Also opportunities for reform along the lines of insurance, and certainly things that we're monitoring in real time. But that, again, is a separate investigation from the larger review that will conclude in August. Just want to make that clear so no one conflates the two, that we'll know in August about that. This is about the entire emergency response, city, state, federal, and local. What we could have done, should have done, will do, how to deal with resilience moving forward, redundancy, suppressions technology, strategies, and the timeliness of that could not be more opportune, because it will happen as we move into the second phase and will be informed by that report in terms of how we, I'll say it, Brad said it, don't want to get any PTS, build back better. Thank you guys very, very much.